The old sheriff is attending his wife's funeral. The old woman actually took a liking to his looks.
Godless men. It is rare that anyone is not for a just man.
But upon closer inspection, the old woman still looks the same. He thought he was old and blinded. When he looks back again, the pastor tries to intervene. He is punched into the coffin. In the end, because of this incident, Sheriff Miller resigns from his position. New Sheriff Edie Barrett takes office. Miller returns home and goes to a room. This is where his wife used to do her sewing. She never allowed Miller to enter when she was alive. But the scene inside surprised Miller greatly. The walls are covered with various weapons. On the table lies a thick book with a strange appearance. On the other wall, there are strange paintings plastered all over. One of them is of the old woman he saw at the funeral. Edie Barrett has just taken office. She is reading the newspaper at the police station. The deputy sheriff walked in and advised Edie Barrett to do whatever she wanted, without leaving any regrets, because Edie Barrett's time is already limited. In fact, this story goes back to the 17th century. At that time, the sheriff burned 172 witches. After this incident, every sheriff that took office would die young. It wasn't until Miller took office that the curse was broken. But Edie Barrett is a staunch atheist. Meanwhile, Miller is flipping through that book. He found that he didn't recognize any of the words inside. Miller prepares to ask his daughter, Ellie, if she knows anything about it. But the girl said that when their mother read this book, she always held a necklace. However, that necklace was buried with her mother. And previously, after Miller fell asleep, their mother would always sneak out. Meanwhile, Edie Barrett is on the phone with her daughter. The deputy sheriff comes over to tell her that an old lady wants to meet with her. After they meet, Edie Barrett wants to ask the old lady's name. The old lady suddenly seemed like a different person. At this moment, the light behind Edie Barrett flickers strangely. When she looks back after checking, she finally believed the deputy sheriff's words. Edie Barrett quickly finds Miller's house. Miller is just fixing the antenna on the roof when he was startled by the old lady. Edie Barrett asks Miller about the old woman at the funeral, but Miller seems uninterested. Later that evening, Edie Barrett comes back again. Miller is digging at his wife's grave. In desperation, he takes Edie Barrett to his wife's room. After some discussion, Miller believed that his survival is not accidental and is likely due to his wife's hidden protection, and they both suspect that the way to kill the monster is in this book. But the urgent matter is that they need to find that necklace. Edie Barrett is preparing to tell her family that she is safe, but after calling for a long time, no one answers. So Edie Barrett rushes home immediately. The next scene shocks her.
Oh, Jesus! Karen! Don't be mad.
Although only a head remains, it can still talk. Edie Barrett hurriedly asks where her daughter is, but just then, the witch appears behind her. Meanwhile, Miller goes alone to search for the necklace. He discovered that his wife's grave has been dug up. A series of screams comes from the woods. Miller goes over with a shovel to investigate. He discovered that Edie Barrett was tied to a tree by someone. Miller just wants to go over and untie her, but he is startled by the old woman who suddenly appears behind him. The old woman is agile and knocks Miller away. Then she prepares to set Edie Barrett on fire. Fortunately, Miller quickly takes down the old woman. He grabs the necklace. After Edie Barrett breaks free, she tells her daughter to hide to the side. The two start studying the book with the necklace. It indeed contains methods to deal with witches. The book stated that salt is needed to combat witches, but at this critical moment, where will they get the salt? But she still underestimated Miller. They sprinkle salt in a circle around the witch. Edie Barrett begins to chant the spell from the book. Unexpectedly, the witch suddenly opens her eyes. She directly threw Edie Barrett to the ground and spat out thick black juice on her face. Fortunately, Miller reacts quickly. He grabs a metal pipe and strikes the witch hard. After dragging the witch back into the salt circle, he launches another attack. Edie Barrett doesn't dare to delay and continues chanting the spell. As Miller approaches Edie Barrett, the witch explodes into a cloud of black powder. Edie Barrett told Miller that if everything in the book is true, there are still 171 evil spirits left to deal with. The scene shifts to a man reading a newspaper. He looks up to rest his eyes, but he sees a figure in the distance who looks just like him. The man thinks he must be seeing things, but when he rubs his eyes and looks again, the figure has turned into a goat. Meanwhile, a madman is standing in the middle of the road, going crazy. Evie Barrett wants to give the man a ticket, but she is drawn to the necklace around his neck. At this moment, the madman told Evie Barrett that a mysterious woman gave it to him. Then the madman sees that Evie Barrett is attractive, and takes off the necklace to give it to her. She goes to Miller's house to discuss how to deal with the evil spirits. Just then, a noise comes from the kitchen. It turned out that Miller's daughter Ellie accidentally fell down. Evie Barrett's attention is drawn to an object hanging on the wall. It resembles the necklace given by the homeless man. Evie Barrett asks Ellie what the object is for. Ellie says it was used by their mother to make salad when she was alive, but she never allowed anyone to take it down. Then, Ellie takes a bucket and goes to the forest to pick blueberries. While Ellie is busy, a goat suddenly appears behind her. Since there is no one around, Ellie starts chatting with the goat. She doesn't notice that when she mentions her father was a sheriff, the goat slowly transforms into a human shape. When Ellie turns back again, the goat man has turned back into a goat. After Ellie leaves, Evie Barrett quietly takes down the object. Then Evie Barrett drives to the madman's house. She wants to ask him about the object. According to the madman, Miller's wife was a hunter who tracked down evil spirits when she was alive. The object in Evie Barrett's hand is the key item to deal with the goat man. Meanwhile, Ellie brings a friend home. Miller gets up to check. He thinks it's a handsome guy, but when Miller opens the door, he sees a goat monster. He quickly blocks the door to keep it from entering. A deafening blast echoes in his ears. Miller locks the door, and the noise finally stops. Back to Evie Barrett. The goat man seems to be able to mentally control the madman from afar. Just as Evie Barrett is about to leave, the madman used clothes to strangle Evie Barrett's neck. Miller looks at the goat man outside the house. He wants to discuss with Ellie how to solve it, but when he turns back again, the goat man is already right in front of him. In an instant, the goat man outside transforms into Ellie's form. Inside, Ellie turns into the monster. Miller is at a loss for what to do. The noise gives him a splitting headache. Then he collapses to the ground. When he opens his eyes again, Miller asks Ellie how long he was unconscious. Ellie replies that it was only a few minutes, but when he looks outside at the sky, it has already turned to night. What on earth is going on? Miller recalls a scene from a movie. He quickly goes back to search. Miller finds 3 bottles of unknown substances. He tapes them together to make a makeshift bomb. Meanwhile, Evie Barrett gradually wakes up. She quickly heads outside, but Evie Barrett finds that her car is missing. She had to requisition a car on the road using her police chief identity, and rush towards Miller's house. At this moment, a man walks out holding a metal frame. The goat man immediately attacks him. Fortunately, the metal frame protects him. Miller seizes the opportunity to attach the bomb to the goat's horn. Then he turns and aims his gun at the goat man, but with the sound of a gunshot, he missed. Miller pulls the trigger again, but the gun jams. As the goat man is about to kill Miller, a police car crashes in. The madman gets out of the car and calls the goat man master. He presents the items the female officer stole from Miller's house. Just as the goat man is about to step forward to take them, he is aimed at by Evie Barrett with her gun. Miller urges her to shoot the bomb on the goat's horn quickly. Evie Barrett reacts quickly, but the bullet hits. It doesn't trigger an explosion. In this critical moment, they still need Ellie. The girl snatches the item from the madman's hands and stabs it into the goat man's body. The monster screams in pain, and in an instant, it explodes into a cloud of black mist. After they kill another demon, they put the fork and spoon back on the wall. But Evie Barrett suddenly remembers that they forgot about the madman. The scene shifts to a man meeting an online friend at a bar. They felt friendly when they first met. They planned to go to the bathroom to have some fun. The man's sweet talk makes the girl very happy. By the time the bartender discovers the man, he has already turned into this. That night, Evie Barrett invited Miller to come to the date event with Ellie. Since Miller knows everyone in town, Evie Barrett hopes Miller can help her avoid any pitfalls. Evie Barrett's concerns are not unfounded. Soon, there's a classic example. The man across from her actually says to Evie Barrett that he is the one she once arrested for urinating in a mailbox. This clearly frightens Evie Barrett quite a bit. The next date is with a handsome guy. Evie Barrett is captivated by his handsome appearance and charming personality. Seeing the opportunity, he wants to invite Evie Barrett for a walk. Evie Barrett wants to see Miller's opinion, but she finds Miller chatting with a woman. Miller is too busy to pay attention to her. Although the female sheriff hesitates a bit, she ultimately doesn't think too much about it. The female sheriff follows the man and leaves. Then the man drives Evie Barrett home. They agree to go on another date. But when Evie Barrett gets inside, the outdoor lights suddenly start to flicker. The man's eyes turn red as well. The next morning, Ellie is having breakfast. She hears a knocking sound at the door. There is no one outside. Only a rectangular bamboo basket is there. What's inside makes her happy. It's a pet pig. Miller received a lunch invitation from his date last night. He was about to say something to Ellie, but Miller saw the pig running around. Miller asks where the pig came from. Ellie doesn't know either. She finds it strange as well, because she only told others about her love for piglets last night. And today, her wish came true, but Miller doesn't think much of it. He then goes on a date with the woman. The woman replaces all of Miller's meat dishes with vegetable salads. She claims it's for Miller's health. After the woman comes to Miller's house, she even throws away all the meat stored in Miller's fridge. Unbeknownst to them, danger is approaching. Evie Barrett, Miller, and Ellie are immersed in their date. They didn't even notice that some black patterns had appeared on their bodies unconsciously. Meanwhile, Evie Barrett finished her date and returned home. She suddenly feels weak and powerless. Evie Barrett feels exhausted just climbing a couple of stairs. Not only that, but her hearing sharply declines. She can't hear the man speaking to her clearly. When she looks in the mirror, Evie Barrett realizes the terrifying situation. She hurriedly finds Miller. Miller is shocked to see her. Immediately, Evie Barrett uses the necklace to search the book for a solution. She confirmed that they are facing another monster. The monster's method is quite novel as well, which is to make the target fall in love with what they love, and absorb their soul through it, until eventually, the demon can become a real human. It's not difficult to break the spell, because the book contains spells against the monster. All they need to do is recite the spell, and break up with their loved one. Evie Barrett writes the spell on her hand. Then she goes to the bar. Evie Barrett finds the man who deceived her emotionally. She takes out a cross and begins to chant the spell. The man is forced to reveal his true form. Soon, he explodes into a cloud of black smoke and disappears. At the moment the monster is eliminated, Evie Barrett immediately returns to normal. She rushes back to Miller's house. Evie Barrett discovered that Ellie is also experiencing the same situation. After asking, she found that Ellie's love interest is actually a pig. Evie Barrett advises Ellie to break up with the pig, but Ellie is too deeply involved. She doesn't want to part with the pig at all. Ellie locks Evie Barrett and Miller outside. No matter how much they knock, it's useless. Just at this moment, Miller noticed the lights in the house start to flicker incessantly. He immediately breaks down the door. A terrifying pig-headed monster stands inside. Evie Barrett quickly climbs to Ellie's side and gives her the cross. She starts teaching her to chant the spell. This method is very effective. The pig-headed monster quickly explodes and dissipates. After the pig-headed monster is dealt with, Miller's date also arrived at the house. Miller doesn't dare to delay. He grabs the cross and starts chanting the spell. But Miller noticed that the woman shows no reaction. Could it be that he recited it wrong? Or perhaps the woman isn't a monster at all? Miller had no choice but to use his trump card. The once normal ground suddenly behaves strangely. A flower grows at an alarming speed. This is clearly not a good sign. A figure in a cloak approaches. After reciting a few spells, she uses a shovel to press down on the flower's stem. With a strong pull, she yanks it from the ground. The root of the flower is covered in blood. The cloaked figure is Miller's wife. After doing this, the woman is about to go home, when she suddenly feels a strange presence behind her. The monster, realizing it's been discovered, no longer hides. It yells at Miller's wife, claiming it has had enough of her hunting. After saying this, it charges at the woman. The woman remains completely calm. She pulls out a knife and stabs the monster's eyes. But just as she is about to chant a spell to kill the monster, the woman suddenly has a heart attack. She collapses to the ground, motionless. In fact, this is the cause of Miller's wife's death. The scene shifts back to the present. When Evie Barrett arrived at the police station, she finds a strange flower growing at the entrance. She approaches to examine it, and discovers the flower is oozing a strange liquid. She informs the deputy sheriff about this. The deputy sheriff says there is not just one flower, but 5 flowers. They are scattered in 5 different locations. Following his instructions, she marks these locations on a map. It forms a pentagram. She quickly goes to find Miller. Ellie told her that the father and daughter didn't sleep all night. Coincidentally, Evie Barrett also didn't sleep last night. However, they soon find the answer in the book. It turned out that when the first flower blooms, everyone in the vicinity of the flower will experience a sleepless night. When the second flower blooms, some people will be allowed to enter the world of the dead. The third flower causes all past loyal friends to become enemies with each other. And the fourth flower signifies the return of the dead. The fifth flower signifies the earth becoming hell. The omen of the first flower has already appeared. At night, they prepare to perform a seance, to seek help from Miller's deceased wife. But at this moment, the second flower is also blooming. After a while, Evie Barrett and Ellie realize there is no response. They open their eyes and see that Miller has vanished. This is the sign of the second flower blooming. Miller opened his eyes and found his wife standing beside him. This leads him to believe that what happened in the real world was all just a nightmare. His wife tells him not to worry. He just needs to sit down and watch TV. The scene shifts back to the real world. Evie Barrett returns to the study again. She hopes to find a solution in the book. Ellie is outside watching TV. It's Miller's favorite show. This sparks an idea in her. Ellie knows that no matter what happens, Miller will always watch this show, so she uses the TV to connect with her father trapped in the world of the dead. But Miller thinks he's just getting old, so it's normal for him to mishear and see things wrong. Evie Barrett has been busy for a long time, but she has no idea what the outcome will be. She can only keep praying to the heavens. Meanwhile, the third flower is slowly blooming. Men can't sleep at night and want to go out and walk their dogs, but the next second, the words on the dog tag read, "The most loyal friend of mankind." Another day passes, and the fourth flower blooms in the cemetery. A staff member at work is grabbed by a hand reaching up from the ground. Meanwhile, Miller finally realizes something is wrong, because the TV is stuck on the same show. So he gets up and heads to the room to test his wife. Miller immediately notices something strange, because his wife reacts on the spot. At the same time, the fifth flower has also bloomed. Evie Barrett is researching the idea of saving Miller. She looks at the clues in the book. Suddenly, Evie Barrett realized that it might not necessarily have to be Miller's blood. Ellie's blood is just as good as Miller's. Evie Barrett grabs a knife and goes to find Ellie. Meanwhile, Miller opened his eyes and found himself lying on the table at an unknown time. As he struggles to get up, Miller sees the witch staring at him. As the witch is about to strike, Evie Barrett plunges the knife into Ellie's hand. At the same time, Miller on the table suddenly vanishes. The witch screams in anger. A woman is giving birth, but the midwife's expression seems off. Surprisingly, it directly wrapped around the midwife's neck. Centuries pass. Several dark magic enthusiasts arrive at the house. This is the place where the famous witch Lily died. They intend to perform a ritual to summon the witch Lily, but to complete this ritual, they must obtain the blood of a virgin. They immediately think of Miller's daughter Ellie, because Ellie is indeed a virgin. Next, they trick Ellie into coming here under the guise of a party. The leader has already begun to chant the spell. The candles on the ground extinguish instantly. The lights begin to flicker strangely. The girl and Curly are puzzled about what's happening. A beam of white light suddenly shines down on the leader's head. Then the leader's face starts to twist. When the white light disappears, the leader collapses inside the magic circle. Ellie stood up here to praise their magic performance, but the leader rises from the ground and grabs Ellie by the neck. The other two try to intervene, but they hear a cracking sound from Ellie's neck. Soon Evie Barrett receives a report from the two. Upon learning that the victim is Ellie, she immediately calls Miller. Meanwhile, Ellie has already returned home. She walked straight into the bedroom and made strange noises. Miller senses something is wrong upon hearing this. Ellie raised the axe and attempted to kill Miller, but she loses consciousness from the effort. When Evie Barrett's call comes in, Miller has already tied Ellie up. Just as he's speaking, Evie Barrett hears a scream coming from the office. When she rushes over, she finds Curly, who came to report, has been shot through the stomach with a shotgun. Evie Barrett then goes to Miller's house. She discovered that Ellie is possessed by the witch. From the girl, she learned that the demon possessed by her elder brother was Sheriff Lifu, who had burned hundreds of witches hundreds of years ago. Lifu is the true wizard. He burned so many people to strengthen his coven's power. The group arrived at the house where the ritual is taking place. As the girl tries to escape, Evie Barrett catches her. The female sheriff told her that they need the girl to perform the ritual to lure Lifu over. They head to the place where Lifu executed witches. The girl hands out masks to Evie Barrett and Miller. She tells them they need to dance to enhance the atmosphere. As the ritual progresses, a beam of white light suddenly shines on the girl. Evie Barrett dodges Lifu's attack from behind, but he quickly knocks her unconscious with a blow. Then he sends Miller flying as he charges in, which Lily tries to stop Lifu, but she is no match for him. It seems Lifu was about to strike Lily. Evie Barrett finally regains consciousness. She swiftly beheads Lifu with a knife. As the group returns, Ellie also returns to normal. Could it be that Laifu was killed so easily? The scene shifts to a priest holding a Nepalese knife. He is slowly walking into the basement. The priest seems fearful of what's inside. When he turns on the light, he finds nothing. But when he looks at his hand, he saw his hand, and the switch covered in a sticky spider web. A strange figure approaches the priest. He tries to escape, but it's too late. Meanwhile, Miller is about to go to the supermarket to buy some cheese. Suddenly, he heard a knock at the door. A man outside asks where Miller's wife has gone. Miller is very angry. He takes the man to the police station. Only then does he learn that the man is from the neighboring town. He has done extensive research on the cursed town. 30 years have passed. He didn't find any reports of monsters harming people in town. Thus, he concluded that there is a highly skilled individual secretly protecting the town. After much investigation, the man determined that this individual is Miller's wife. He also learns that Miller's wife has a weapon stash, specifically for dealing with monsters. But the man is unaware that Miller's wife has passed away. Ellie wants to go out and buy some discounted puzzles. She doesn't notice that she is being followed by a man. But soon, a loud roar comes from behind the man. He curiously stepped forward to check. When Ellie returns home after buying the puzzles, she happens to stumble upon a terrifying scene. Ellie brings the man back to her house. She calls Evie Barrett over. Evie Barrett asks the man if he remembers what attacked him. The man claimed that he was attacked by a demon. He then suggests that he wants to check the weapon stash. Miller has no choice but to take him there. The man finds information about the creature that attacked him in a book. Miller begins to search the book with a necklace for a solution. The only way to deal with this monster is to behead it, and it must be done with a specific knife on the wall. But Miller states that he doesn't want to get involved, because this doesn't concern him. After sending everyone else away, Miller hurriedly asks Ellie to help him move everything from his wife's weapon stash to the car, and transfer it to the warehouse. At night, Evie Barrett and the man arrive at the basement together. The female sheriff uses a flashlight to investigate the situation ahead. She is completely unaware of the changes in the man behind her. The man slowly reveals his true nature. By the time Evie Barrett realizes it, it's too late. When she opened her eyes, she found herself glued to the spider web. The man smirks at Evie Barrett with satisfaction. He reveals the entire truth to her. The earlier incident was completely orchestrated by him, because only in this way could he find the arsenal so smoothly. That knife was his target. As soon as he finishes speaking, he begins to blow air onto Evie Barrett's face repeatedly. The man intends to drug her. After temporarily dealing with Evie Barrett, the spider monster arrives at Miller's house. Seeing that no one is around, it swiftly heads to the weapon stash, but when it opens the door, there is nothing inside. Miller is standing right behind it. The spider monster is furious. It immediately lunges at Miller. Unexpectedly, Miller calmly counters the attack, but at this critical moment, Miller suddenly sees darkness. He is instantly transported to a place he has never been before. Meanwhile, Evie Barrett also appears in this place. Then the spider monster explains the situation to them. It turns out that this is the middle zone between human world and hell, because Miller and Evie Barrett are the former and current sheriffs. The spider monster plans to use their lives to bargain with the leader of the Coven Laifu for a chance to return to the living world. The spider monster becomes more and more excited as it speaks. It claims that it will become the next guardian like Miller's wife, but it has no idea that Laifu has already come up behind it. Seeing this, Miller and Evie Barrett continue to play along with what the monster is saying. They want to draw its attention. When the spider monster gets worked up, it starts bad-mouthing Laifu. Laifu hears every word clearly. When the spider monster realized something is wrong and turns around, Laifu swiftly beheads it. After the spider monster dies, Evie Barrett and Miller are able to return to the living world. Evie Barrett finally realized that in fact, Miller knew the spider monster was a spy. After this incident, Evie Barrett is driving on the road, when suddenly a tire blows out. Evie Barrett has to call the deputy sheriff for help, but at this moment, he is engaged in some wrongdoing. He has no time to help her at all. The female sheriff calls Miller again. After Miller found Evie Barrett, the two prepared to go back. Suddenly, a girl rushes out from the roadside. Evie Barrett can't dodge in time, and thinks she's doomed, but she finds herself back to an hour earlier. It's the same experience again. The tire blows out, and the deputy is up to no good. This confuses Evie Barrett. However, she is mentally prepared. She tells Miller to slow down in advance. Fortunately, with the preparation, the tragedy doesn't occur. But but Evie Barrett clearly still underestimates the seriousness of the problem.
Sheriff? Just tell me your name.
Everything starts over again. This time, she directly calls Miller. When they see the girl in white again, Evie Barrett immediately pulls out her gun. But at this moment, the girl speaks up. She stated that everything is being manipulated by someone. Evie Barrett will become the next version of herself. Before Evie Barrett can understand what this means, the next second, after repeating the previous experience, Evie Barrett grabs a stick from nearby and strikes the oncoming monster with it. Miller can't understand how Evie Barrett suddenly became so strong. Before long, the two see some strange runes carved on a tree. Evie Barrett is about to take a closer look when she sees a threatening message written under the tree. The two are at a loss as to what to do. Suddenly, the monster reappears, but this time, Miller is hit and dies on the spot. At this moment, a man's voice comes from nearby. The man states that he, like Evie Barrett, is trapped in a time loop. There is a rule in this loop. If either Evie Barrett or the girl in white dies, everything will start over. If they want to end it, they must go to Laifu's grave and dig it up, to steal his eyes and bring them to him. Evie Barrett doesn't want to leave Miller's body behind, so she asks him what to do. The man tells her it's simple. She only needs to commit suicide to resurrect Miller. Evie Barrett had no choice but to do it again. However, Evie Barrett has already devised a plan in her mind. She instructs Miller to dig up Laifu's eyes. Miller brings back the entire head instead. After encountering the girl in white again, Evie Barrett tells her to get into Miller's car. She starts speeding through the woods. Before long, Evie Barrett finds a house. The man is about to come out the door. As soon as Evie Barrett enters, she is knocked unconscious by the man. When she opens her eyes again, she finds herself in a different outfit. The man is also changing his clothes nearby. He turns to Evie Barrett and says, he has obtained his eyes and can end the loop. Evie Barrett was instantly stunned upon hearing these words. Then the man continues, that the girl in white is his daughter. At this moment, she has already entered Evie Barrett's world. Evie Barrett effectively replaces the girl. Then, the man takes Evie Barrett back to this place 400 years ago. They were currently on an execution site. The man plans to burn Evie Barrett in the name of killing witches. The scene shifts. Miller is sitting on the sofa, looking at the phone. Deep in thought, Miller feels like he has forgotten something, but no matter how hard he thinks, he can't remember. Thus the story of Stan Against Evil Season 1 comes to an end here. Stan Against Evil Season 1 was released in 2016. The story describes a town in New England, where the former Sheriff Miller has always had a deadpan expression. He even erupts in anger at his wife's funeral, which leads to his impeachment by the higher-ups. Miller has no choice but to retire early. He reluctantly handed over the official position to the stubborn new sheriff Evie Barrett. Both of them realize that something is wrong in the town. This prompts them to become unreliable partners, teaming up to fight against the hellish demons attacking the town. Overall, this is a tribute series to the Evil Dead franchise, but whether in fight scenes or in the atmosphere of horror and comedy, it is commendable. It fully satisfies the curiosity of fans of this genre. Therefore, it must be said that this is a classic worth watching the original. I recommend everyone to check out the original. If you enjoy my channel, please click subscribe.